Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to DBR Bites, episode number 69. I'm Jason Evans. I'm back from Las Vegas. I'm joined by my buddy Donald Wine. Donald, how you doing today?
Good. I'm back from St. Louis, and I'm going to go to Vegas in a week. So Vegas will not have to, last long without one of the podcast hosts in its midst. But I will say later on this week, maybe after the Arizona game, I will let people know where we'll meet up. I'll try and do a meetup before the Kansas game. It won't be at the game because, as Jason and I have long discovered, it's impossible to do a meetup at a game because there's just so many things that are going on, and all of us are there for one reason, which is to watch the game. So we'll do something in Vegas. We'll talk about that after Arizona. But as we're about to discuss, Arizona is a very big game that we have our sights on, and we are going to focus solely on that for now.
Yeah, before we do, I do want to very quickly mention I had to drop off the previous podcast that you guys did about the Wofford game because I was going to U2VU, which is the virtual U2 experience at the Sphere. It was jaw-droppingly good, Donald. I had no idea it would be even 1/10 as good as it was. I don't know what your plans are. I don't know how busy you're going to be. I don't know if it's showing or sold out or what. But, dude, for you and anyone else going to Vegas, I cannot recommend this highly enough. And it is a discount compared to what a real U2 concert would be.
So I was last there. U2 was performing the real U2, not the holograms that you saw, which looked really cool.
I should be clear. It wasn't holograms. It was just a video. But the way they shot the video and the quality of the video, it looked 100% real. I would have sworn that Bono was standing in front of me. It looked completely real.
So we call those holograms in but no, I was gonna say, when they have the Tupac one at the Sphere, I'm definitely at that one because we already know that technology exists. But I will say last time I was there, U2, the real U2 was doing the Sphere, and I was like, let me see what tickets are. They can't be that bad. I opened up my computer. I opened up the browser for the Sphere. I looked at the first line of tickets. The first line of tickets saying starting at $1,965. I closed my laptop. I didn't even close the window. I just closed the laptop and said, there's other parts of Vegas that I need to see first. So I will get to the Sphere. It just may not be it won't be next week, but I'll definitely get to the Sphere.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing about Vegas I should mention is, I talked about the fact that the only successful wager I had all weekend was on Duke to beat Wofford. I looked at getting a ticket on our beloved Blue Devils to win the national title, which most years I go ahead and I do that. Usually I'm getting Duke at 11, 12, 13 to 1, something like that. I saw earlier this year, Duke was 13 to 1. We were currently 7 to 1. That's in the wake of losing. It was in the wake of losing to Kentucky. Duke was 7 to 1 to win the national title. Us and UConn were the two teams that were at 7 to 1. And I was like, that's throwing away my money. 7 to 1. Those are really, really short odds. The money, the experts in Las Vegas who are pretty damn good at predicting this stuff, they think this Blue Devil team's pretty darn special.
I like the vision. And hopefully that everyone who plays, here's the thing. I hope people got their bets in early. When I was out in Vegas, like you said, it was like more 19 to 1, 20 to 1.
I would have jumped on that.
Got their tickets in then. But hey, I think what Vegas is trying to tell us is, despite the fact that we lost Kentucky, still a good thing to bet on Duke and bet on this team.
Yes, it is. All right. So with that, we've done enough of the preamble. Let's get to our task today, which is to look ahead to the game against Arizona, a game at Arizona. I want to stress that in everything we say and do, the fact that we are going on the road, the fact that we are playing in a extremely hostile arena is a big deal for this Duke team. It's something that Duke doesn't do very often, except when forced to by the ACC SEC Challenge or previously the ACC Big Ten Challenge. So it's a really big deal. And Donald, just so folks understand This is the way we're sort of going to do this all season long to some extent. Donald has two responsibilities. Jason has two responsibilities. Donald will tell us who they've played so far and how the team has done against that schedule. At this point in the season, that may seem like a small task. As the season moves on, it's going to become more and more important to our previews. I will then go over the advanced stats, the good stuff we get from Ken Pomeroy, Bart Torvik, and other websites like that. I will look at the specific players who are the top performers for the team. And then Donald's second arena is he looks at the matchups. He looks at Duke and the opponent and where the key matchups are that you need to be on the lookout for. So let's start our preview of Arizona with Donald and his assessment of the schedule so far for the Wildcats.
So to add on to that, not just for this game, but for others, right? I'm going to first take a look at Duke because right now, we remember they were number 6, number 7 in the polls last week. Of course, we lost to Kentucky. We dropped to 12th in the AP and 10th in the coaches. And a lot of people across the nation kind of said, wow, that's kind of harsh for a 5-point loss to what we are saying is a really good Kentucky team, a Kentucky team who is now 9th in the poll. And so I wonder if, again, they haven't had a game all week. Duke might be looking at that and saying, okay, another version of disrespect that we need to, again, correct. We need to come back and say, hey, we're better than being the 12th ranked team in the country, especially, after our preamble when we talked about Vegas thinking that we are a lot better than that. I also think when I look at these teams, Jason, you're very good at analytics. I have embraced analytics, but it took me a while, right, to warm up to the numbers. I am an eye test dude. I look at a team and I know ball, right? I can look at a team and go, that team can play ball, that guy can play ball, this team can rebound. And so as we get into the season where we get to, more tape, that'll also come out in these previews. But let's start first with Arizona, where they are right now. They're number 17 in the AP and the coaches. They're number 17 in KenPom, number 12 in Bart Torvik. They are 2-1 on the season so far. They won their first game, a home game against Canisius. That victory, 93-64. They then followed that up with another home victory against Old Dominion. That final score was 102-44.
Dude, then repeat that one for everybody. That's like a 60-point drubbing.
Yes. Well, it'd have been fine until their next game. The last game over the weekend, they went to Wisconsin again in Madison. Very tough place to play at the McKale Center. Duke has done it many times and has suffered losses up there. And lost they did. 103-88 was the final score there, again, on the road. But this was a game where Wisconsin's John Tanji had 41 points. And I will tell you about this game, and this kind of leads into your analytics, Jason. Watching that game and watching how the Arizona wanted to play and how they were able to allow a guy to score 41 points. First of all, this team is one of the best rebounding teams, probably the best rebounding team so far on the season in the country. And I will say that the thing that they want to do that might play a little bit more into Duke's hands, especially this team, they play fast. Their tempo feels like a track meet, and I think Duke needs to prepare themselves for one.
Yeah, you stole the thunder of the first couple things I was going to say about them, but let me get into Arizona in this way, which is if you look at KenPom, they're number 17. If you look at Bart Torvik and you subtract the preseason bias, you subtract sort of the knowledge that Bart Torvik's computer says about these teams, then you get an Arizona club that is number 34 in the rankings. Based on those 3 games you talked about, based on how they've done, Bart Torvik has them as number 34. So basically their performance on the season thus far, especially the fact that they got beat at Wisconsin fairly soundly, has hurt their analytics in a fairly significant way compared to what the expectations were for this team. You are correct that they play fast, very fast. The 5th fastest tempo in all of college basketball. And they've managed to avoid turnovers despite playing that fast pace. And they're also very good at sharing the ball. They have 6 guys who average between 9 and 15 points per game. That's just a lot of dudes that could take on a scoring load for you. And I honestly, as I look at them, I don't see any one guy who I go, that's the player you have to stop. And they have Caleb Love on this squad. He is someone who Duke fans know very, very well, and he's someone who
can't get rid of him.
Yeah, we can. I know. He's been in college for 19 years now, I think.
And
Uh,
we've played him every single year. Like this is like I don't understand. Like he is the Toby Bailey of this generation. He's been around for that long. Armando Bacot has graduated, so now it's Caleb Love left. That's the last person we got to get up out of here.
right, and Caleb Love, got some like preseason All-American kind of buzz sort of stuff. But as I look at their team, I don't go, oh, that's you need to focus on Caleb Love. That's where Duke should focus their defense. This is again just a incredibly balanced team. They play very, very deep. They have 9 different guys. They get 13 plus minutes per game, even against Wisconsin. It's one thing when you're blowing out Canisius and the such, but even in that road game at Wisconsin, that where they were down, where you would think, oh, they're not going to use as much of the bench, 9 guys got double-digit minutes. So this is a Arizona team that plays pretty deeply. When you look at their advanced stats, you mentioned this. The thing that jumps off the page is the rebounding. This is the number one offensive rebounding team in the country. The number is 50%. When they miss a shot, there's a 50-50 chance they're going to get the offensive rebound. That's terrifying to think about, especially for a Duke team that is outstanding at forcing you into bad shots. For Arizona to be the kind of club where, like, we got a bad shot, we don't care because we have a bunch of guys who can go after that rebound and grab it. If you're Duke, you've got to protect against that kind of thing, especially Duke has some younger players, maybe not quite as physical yet as they will be someday in their career. And Arizona's a team that will play physical against you. I mentioned they're number one in offensive rebounding. They're number 3 in defensive rebounding. So it's not just one end of the floor. Both ends of the floor, they are going out there and they're getting those boards. And the reason they're getting those boards is a gentleman named Toby Awaka. He is a 6'8 junior, came over from Tennessee. Man is beast mode personified. He is just, he is a load. He is a physical presence, 250 plus pounds at 6'8". He goes after rebounds like his life depends on it. A very physical defender, a dude that just does the dirty work all over the court. If Awaka was on Duke, we would be talking about him nonstop. Go ahead.
I would say that because he averages just over 10 points a game, I would say that he's a walking double-double, but he doesn't walk. He bulldozes. And so that's his problem is that whenever he's on the floor, it feels like, again, grabbing some of these rebounds, it could be a lot of people in traffic jumping up for the ball, but all of a sudden there's just this space that clears around him. And it's him like being able to box people out, get to his space, and outman people if he needs to get the ball. He's very adept at going after the basketball. And I will focus on this later on, but that is something we need to be concerned about.
Yeah, for sure. He averages like better than 12 rebounds per game. 12 rebounds per game, even though he's playing barely 20 minutes per game, because I mentioned, Arizona's a very deep team. He will play more than that against Duke. He'll be in the mid 30s in terms of minutes against Duke. But for a dude to be grabbing 12 plus rebounds per game and playing 20 minutes per game, that shows you how aggressive he is at rebounding. This is a bad 3-point shooting team. As I look at the analytics on them and I look at the players, they are shooting just 27% from 3-point range. They only take about a third of their shots from 3-point range, which is a very low 3-point rate. When you compare 3-point field goals to 2-point field goals, Arizona is like close to 300th in the country at their 3-point field goal rate. And one of the reasons for that is our man Caleb Love. Against Wisconsin, he had just 6 points and went 0 for 6 from 3-point range. On the season, Caleb Love is only shooting 26% from 3-point range. But you know what? That makes him like one of their better shooters. They've got a bunch of guys on this team who cannot shoot very well from the perimeter. And this is a big problem for Arizona. If you're looking for a reason that Arizona is suffering so far this year, it's that they're just not getting the kind of shooting that you would expect. They're an experienced team, for sure, but not like Kentucky was, with all these seniors and fifth-year grad players and the such. Arizona's experienced in that they have lots of sophomores and juniors, and only one freshman who really plays very much for them. But the key to their experience is they really know each other. They bring back 5 of their top 8 rotation players from last year's team, including 3 starters. And I'm sorry, it's just unusual to see a team where that much of the team comes back year to year. There's just so much movement in college basketball, whether it be the transfer portal, whether it be guys turning pro. Arizona's done a really nice job at a lot of the names of guys that we talked about a year ago, we're going to be talking about again this year. Their backcourt has pretty decent size. All their backcourt guys are like 6'3", 6'4". Usually Duke has a big advantage in the backcourt. We're playing guys who are 6'5", 6'6". And usually our guys have an advantage over players who are like in the 6 foot, 6'1" kind of range. Arizona's not that kind of team. They're a little bit bigger. And that's a situation that, Duke is used to having that advantage, and we really won't have it against Arizona. Their leading scorer, by the way, is junior guard Jaden Bradley. Really stepped up his offense this year. Bradley was like a 6 to 7 point per game player the past couple of years. This year, he's averaging better than 14 points per game. And, there are other guys on that roster. I don't need to go through each and every one of them. Again, you'll recognize some of the names. And again, they're such a deep team that I'm not sure which guys are going to be the one that we're going to go, oh, that guy, he threatened to go off against us, or maybe he did go off against us. But I did want to mention one other player that I think is sort of interesting. They've got a 7'2" center, a sophomore, Montages Krivas. And I feel like every time I watch Arizona play, I'm like, man, that Krivas guy, 7'2", he's got, nice fluidity to his game. His body's fairly decent in terms of being filled out for a 7'2" guy. I watch him and I'm like, that dude, I feel like I see NBA level talent there. I feel like I've seen a future NBA guy in Krivas. But then I look at the box scores, and I look at his performance and the such, and like it doesn't live up to what I feel like I'm seeing. It's this weird disconnect in the stats and the eye test. Donald, I'm sure you remember him from last year. He's a guy who, he'll have these moments, these 2 and 3 minute moments where you're like, man, Krivas is really impacting the game. And then you'll be like, oh, wait, I haven't mentioned Krivas in 20 minutes.
Right.
So I just mentioned him because he is 7'2", the same size as Kamen Malawach. And I think it's probably going to be unusual for Malawach to have a guy that he's facing off against who is the same size as him.
I will say that they also have the 7-footer Henry Visar, I want to say. And that is going to be a rare thing too, right? We haven't played teams so far that have a lot like tall trees, right? 7-footers. They don't just, grow everywhere. And so for them to have 2, usually that's something that we would do, right? Like we would have the Cal Filipowski and the Derek Lively when you have, 3 or 4 in a Christian Reeves to get a couple fouls because we'd have a few tall trees up there. But really, I mean, Malawach, this is going to be an interesting test for him because no matter who's in the game, there's going to be somebody at almost eye level for him. And so this is going to be a nice, again, step up in quality, a step up like a come of age type of game for him where he will need to figure out how to produce against a guy his size.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to take a quick break on this DBR Bites. When we come back, Donald's going to talk about the matchups. Who do you need to watch for Duke and how they perform against someone else? All that in just a moment. Hey, Duke fans, spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods.
The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible, hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, that it's exactly what I wanted feeling. Somehow they've created a place where you can find the exact perfect gift for everyone.
Yo, Donald, speaking of perfect gifts, I got a root beer maker for my kitchen. It's something I never thought I needed. I am making handmade, homemade root beer now. I love root beer, and it's fresh whenever I want it. I think it's pretty cool, man.
Root beer floats are in Jason's future. I'm jealous. From holiday gifts to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone, from book lovers to diehard sports fans like all of us, Uncommon Goods has something for everyone. Not the same old selections you can find just anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. And to date, they have donated more than $3 million. I think that's outstanding.
Yo, Donald, that means that I'm sort of drinking root beer for charity, I guess. That's pretty nice of me. All right, folks. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/DukeBB. That's uncommongoods.com/DUKEBB, and you'll get 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Back from the break on DBR Bites, episode number 69. We continue our preview of Arizona. Donald, it is your turn. Tell me what I need to look for if I am Duke. If you are John Shire doing the scout, what are you telling Duke to do?
So there's four things that I always look at. And again, we're going to start with somebody that obviously is very familiar to Duke fans, and that's Caleb Love. And in the past few years that we've had Caleb Love, 1 year as at UNC and 1 year last year against Arizona, he was matched up with Tyrese Proctor and against Tyrese Proctor. And that battle was very interesting. I thought Tyrese Proctor in a way got the better of him, but of course Arizona won the game. And then against UNC a couple years ago, Caleb Love had that one game where he went off, but UNC couldn't do anything else, and Duke ended up winning both of those matchups that year. So I'm interested to see how this works for them, because not only do we have a Tyrese Proctor that we can get into his face, but we also have Sion James, who is great physical on the ball defender, who those are the type of defenders that always gives Caleb Love fits, and it's the type that makes Caleb Love want to shoot threes. Now, I will say this. You mentioned that Caleb Love is a terrible three-point shooter so far this year. It feels like, and you know this, it feels like he's always been a terrible three-point shooter, except when he plays Duke.
It is so
every
damn
single
frustrating.
time. So be prepared for Caleb Love to have 5 threes in the first half and go nuts. Obviously, we were hoping that's not.
Do not speak it into existence. Do not do that.
hey, I combat this by saying enter Sion James, because if he's taking more of those like desperation threes, those step back one-legged, type of threes, the end of shot clock, throw it up desperation type of threes, those are the ones that he misses. Those are the reason why he has a terrible three-point shooting rate. It's not the ones where he's catching and shooting in space or in lots of space. So Caleb Love versus Tyrese Proctor, always going to be interesting, but also again, that Sion James added element to that. I wonder if we see a lot of time with Sion James on Caleb Love on the perimeter. You mentioned rebounding. We have to win the rebounding battle. That's going to be a very big key. We cannot allow them to get the 51 rebounds a game that they are used to getting. And it starts with our perimeter. It's not necessarily our interior. And I will say, Cooper Flagg has been doing well on the boards. Malawach only had 1 rebound against Wofford, but I feel like that's an aberration. He's going to need to step it up. But it's got to be guys like Con Knipple on the wing. It's got to be guys like Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster. It's got to be Mason Gillis. Those type of guys on the wing, because that is where where Arizona really is able to inflict damage, because their rebounding, yes, it's one guy that's getting the bulk of them, but it is very much spread out, especially on the defensive end. And I think on offense, the reason why they're able to get a lot of points is because they're getting second hand, as you mentioned, they're getting second opportunities and third opportunities and fourth opportunities on every single possession. It's basically every possession is ending in a shot because they're able to get rebounds and put it back up. If we can limit that, that's again a set number of shots that they're not going to have. And those are shots that are not going to go in because they didn't have them. So you have to limit them in that way. And I think rebounding is going to be a really, really big key here. Now, switching again to the offensive end, I think Duke needs to play in control despite it going to be a track meet. You mentioned the tempo. You mentioned how fast they want to play.
Yeah.
That is a tendency. And we like to play fast, but it's a tendency to have more turnovers in a game like that where both teams are going back and forth. We just need to play within control, which we have been doing for the first part so far this year, but we need to continue to do that. And then finally, I focus on 2 things when we're on the road: free throws and 3-pointers. 3-pointers are momentum killers. They take a crew out of it. They take a whole crowd out of it. And free throws, because at the end of a game, when the chips are on the line and everyone in the gym is yelling at you, you pretend you're back in the old gym at your front yard, and you go back to camera, go back to your gym in your front, your rim of your front yard, where it's just you and the basketball and the rim. Make those free throws, guys, because if you do, this is going to be a game where we win, because I think this is a game that's going to come down to those details: the rebounds, the hustle plays, the 50-50 balls, and of course the free throws.
I feel like I mentioned Toby Awaka. I think his matchup with Cooper Flag is just going to be it's just going to be such a huge key in this game. If Cooper Flag is able to maybe get Awaka in foul trouble, or if
Tire him
Flag is,
out.
yeah, if Flag is able to, cause Awaka to be not as much of an impact on the boards, then it really changes things for this Arizona team. If on the other hand, Awaka's physical and smart high end defense is able to bother Cooper Flag, then that's a big problem for Duke on offense. So I feel like that matchup and by the way, I think it's a really good one for Cooper Flag to test himself, because this is I'm not saying Toby Walker is going to play in the NBA. He might, he's not someone who's projected as as a high end NBA player, but he has the physical kind of game that Cooper Flag's going to see a lot at the next level, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Flag adjusts to it.
You just brought up something that you reminded me of something that is an excellent thing, or at least an excellent point regarding Cooper Flag. Go back to the Kentucky game. If you remember, Jason, you were at the game, so you may not know this, but Mark Pope was mic'd up for the game. And so they were doing certain things where they would, kind of like an NBA game, they would have an all access and they would show him in the huddle talking about
Right, right, yeah.
But afterwards, they released a little bit of that audio. And one of them was right before those final couple possessions where Cooper Flag was forced into a couple of turnovers. And he mentioned, hey, guys, first of all, don't bail him out with a foul, play smart, but I'm not worried about the guy on the ball defending Cooper. I'm worried about the guys who are coming in, because when he makes that spin move, if he makes that spin move, we need to have a second pair of hands on the ball. And if you noticed in those two possessions, when Cooper Flag would spin one way or the other, it wasn't the guy that was guarding him that met him. It was somebody else that was waiting in the wings to come out and just frustrate him, or tip the ball away and go the other way. This is where the communication has to be a key, because Cooper Flag, yeah, he's gonna, again, like I said, I trust him with the ball in that situation. He may not have made it in that particular game, but there's going to be games he wins with some of those moves. But what happens is, if your guy is leaving to go be the flank and be the velociraptor and come in off the flank and grab the ball, you need to communicate that to Cooper Flag, because guess who's open? You are. And so I'm looking for, and on the road, that's even more important, because you may not have the friendly confines of the crowd to be quiet, or things like that. They're going to be in your face. So you have to understand, if your guy is leaving to double team or go after the ball, you need to signal that to whoever does have the ball. And it's not just for Cooper Flag, it's for anybody who drives a lane. I want to see a few more kickouts, because that's one thing we really haven't done yet this year. Guys who are going to the rack are going straight to the rack or trying to make a play. If there's a wave that you're open, ask for the ball, because if you're open, you will knock that down. And I think that is where a lot of teams miss out on those momentum killing opportunities for the other team, is they're not communicating when their guy leaves. The guy that's defending leaves to go check the ball handler, leaving you open. If that's the case, Cooper Flag will have his eyes on a swivel, and I feel like he will make the right play and get that guy the ball.
Well, it's worth noting, you talk about eyes in a swivel. Cooper Flag has been making that against Kentucky, at least. He was making that spin move blind. Like, I don't think he knew exactly what he was spinning into. And the Kentucky
Correct.
defense was doing a good job of sort of getting there as he was doing the spin move and the such. I think he's got to be a lot more careful about that move. Cooper Flag is able to take guys one-on-one. I'm not saying he should stop doing that, but he needs to be a little more selective about it, and do it with his head up, looking for the pass a little bit more than he has been. I think there's,
or the hole, right? Like, and we're not saying that he should be spinning and passing every single time, but there's going to be a hole that opens up, whether it's via the pass, via the shot, or via the drive. Find that hole, and for that, yes, you need your eyes. So that's the key. Again, that's something that he's going to continue to improve throughout the season.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing is, I really want Duke to make sure we don't forget that Tyrese Proctor is on this team. I'm sort of coming around to the point that Flag and Knipple are going to be the leading scorers in all likelihood, but I'm sort of coming down to Tyrese Proctor maybe needs to be Duke's third leading scorer, and maybe needs to lead the team in scoring occasionally, and certainly be right up there alongside Flag and Knipple. You sort of touched on this in our last podcast, the fact that Tyrese Proctor disappears at times. I don't know that it's all on him, by the way. I think a little bit is on John Shire for not saying, "Hey, remember this guy over here?" and on Tyrese's teammates for forgetting that he's out there. In terms of what I've observed so far this season, when Duke finds Tyrese Proctor, good things tend to happen. So I'm hoping we'll get a bit more of that going on with this team. All right, anything else you got here on this Arizona Wildcats? Are you just ready for this game to be played, man?
I'm ready for this game to be played. It's a road game. I think, Jason, you stressed it at the beginning, so I'll stress it at the end of this. It is a road game. We don't get a lot of these. Doesn't matter how we get them, but we're here. Let's go. And remember, Arizona came to Cameron and took a win back to Tucson. Let's go to Tucson and do the same. It's an eye for an eye at this point. So let's go take care of business. And then hopefully we're emerging victorious at the end of this, because I would love to take out Arizona in their home gym and send their fans home early. One of the things that they have stressed they wanted to do this year is be that team that when they're on the road in that last under 4 TV timeout, they can look around and see all the fans leaving. Let's try to do that on Friday night. I'm not saying it's going to get to that point, but that's the goal here.
Donald, we will close with this very quickly. So we're recording this on Tuesday the 19th. Tomorrow, I think most of you will probably will end up listening to this on Wednesday the 20th. Donald, Wednesday the 20th is a pretty special day. We were informed. I'm sorry?
I said it sure is.
Yes. We were informed by Lily Grantland, who is a Duke graduate, 2020 Duke graduate. She says she never slept out in a tent, but she loved being a Blue Devil. And Liddy told us that her father, John Grantland, is celebrating his birthday on the 20th. And John's name may be familiar to all of you because he is one of the best people when it comes to sending us headlines on this podcast. And so we wanted to give him a quick shout out. His daughter, Liddy, says that he is a defense lawyer and he works very hard. But if you could read his mind during his meetings, he's probably thinking of puns for DBR headlines. So we wanted to give John Grantland a big shout out from us here at the DBR. Look, we're not going to do this. Don't go sending us hundreds of birthday shout outs. We're not going to do this all the time, but occasionally there's someone who clearly has indicated through various means that they are a huge fan of this podcast or a huge fan of Duke. In John's case, it's a little bit of both. And so we'll take a moment, tip the cap to the man as he celebrates his birthday.
And as we've said on the show, so far this fall, he was the one that kind of said, "Hey, I love doing headlines. I'd love for you guys to do this for football games as well." Yep. And to his credit, every week we get a John Grantland series of headlines for every football game, which we think is important. And I think it's very, very cool that he takes the time out every single game to do that. And of course, for every basketball game as well. It's very hard to come up with a headline. It's even harder to send it to two people that you don't really know. It's even further harder for it to be good enough for those people who are like, "Yo, I actually like this," and read it on their show. And it's impossible for someone to continue to do it on the consistent basis that he does. So, John, happy birthday to you. And thank you for being such a loyal listener of the podcast.
Yeah, and thanks to your daughter, Liddy, for reaching out to us. All right, with that, DBR Bites number 69 goes in the books. We made 0 jokes about the number 69. I think,
Nice.
Oh, for Donald, I am Jason. By the way, make sure you check your feed. We'll be back at it in just a couple days talking about the rest of the ACC. I'm not sure if those of you who've been looking at Duke have noticed there have been some surprisingly good teams in the ACC so far this year. Unfortunately, there have also been some surprisingly bad teams. It's early, but we're going to but we're going to talk about how the conference is doing in the next couple days. Until then, here's the Duke band to play us out and take us home, and then to Tucson.